Hey everybody, Aaron here from Honda Pilot Overland. Today we're going to open up my Flatout suspension struts that just arrived on my porch, and we're going to take a look at them, and if everything looks good, I'm going to go ahead and try to throw them on. We're heading to Colorado this Friday. Today is Tuesday. If I can get them installed tonight and get the vehicle in for alignment tomorrow, then that gives me 1 day of test driving before a trip to Colorado, which sounds like plenty of time for testing, right guys? Anyways, let's get to the unboxing and we'll go from there. That looks really nice. I'm gonna just take a moment to kind of soak in all the beauty. It looks really cool. So these struts have adjustable rebound on the top, and they're adjustable on the bottom for what they say is up to 3 inches of lift. Today I've got to measure my bottom skid plate before I do the install. I think for this trip to Colorado I'm going to try to pretty much match what I've got going on currently, which is just over 11 inches of skid plate clearance. I don't want to radically change my my axle angles for a 3,000 plus mile trip. I think I am going to try to install these bad boys though today. It's got a bump stop up at the top. I'm really curious to see what the ride feels like, to see what having adjustable dampening will be like. I'm gonna have to cut a hole so I can access it up here. Alright, so I've just got done going over the setup procedure for these struts. The first thing you want to do, according to the site, is just set up an ever so slight preload on the spring. You just don't want the spring to be loose. So what I'll do is make sure that both of these match. From there, actually the first step, which I'm about to do, is I need to take measurements. I need to measure from here to the tire. I need to measure from somewhere over here to the ground, skid plate to the ground. Basically you want to have some baseline measurements so that you can set these up to match, and then you can lift accordingly from there. Alright, so as of right now I've got 10.5 inches at the skid plate, lower than I thought. I've got 35 inches to the top of each wheel well on each side. I was pleased with how symmetrical it is. I'm on a slant right now, so luckily it's not a side-to-side slant. So now I'm gonna prep the struts here. I need to get the preload set up the same. So I think what I'm going to do for that is loosen this up. And there's a bearing right here, so the whole thing spins really easily. Alright, so I've loosened it up to where I can just feel a little bit of a jiggle here. So I'm just going to tighten it up until I can feel just a bit of resistance. Alright, from there it says to undo the bottom and measure an inch from where the threads start and mark it with a permanent marker. We're going to do that next. Now the chances of me getting to that point are very slim in my opinion, because I'm not going to be lifting very high with these today at all. It's hard to even imagine that these things can go to where within an inch of these threads. right. So they say you can measure to an inch of when the threads start. Wow, so that's all the way down here. I'm gonna go ahead and put a big old line on it, I guess for the future, in case I decide to put a subframe drop on this guy, this Pilot, and drop that low. I don't know if the permanent marker will still be there by the time I go that low, but we will see. Next thing I'm going to tackle is the sway bar link here. It is an 18mm socket. So if you're careful, which I wasn't too careful there because I started spinning it, but if you're careful, sometimes you can get that thing off without using an Allen key in the middle. But it doesn't look like I'm going to be so lucky. Whenever you're buying sway bar links, you should always buy the one that lets you get a wrench on the backside, because then you can just put it on and take it off with your impact gun instead of doing this little maneuver here. If you've never taken these sway bar end links off before, it can be a real pain. I had to cut the first set that I ever took off. Alright, just like that, we done got this thing stuck right at the end, right before it was about to be off. So sometimes what you can do, take the vice grips, good old vice grips, put them on there real hard as you can squeeze it, and then cross your fingers, hope and pray. That takes it off. Whew, success. So if you use the jack here, lift it up just a little bit, you can get it to where the sway bar link will come out. Alright, let's go ahead and bust this. Bust this axle nut off. I'm going to need to go find one of my extras of that, for sure. So if you stick your screwdriver right here in the rotor, it gives you a good purchase on there. After the axle nut, let's go ahead and move over to the brakes here. And then from there you move the brakes over to where you can kind of just store it out of the way here. You want to be careful that it doesn't fall down and yoink the brake line, but it stays right there pretty well. So at full droop, if I'm not mistaken, this is what our axle angle looks like. So you can kind of see it looks kind of atrocious, but so far these axles have been holding in here pretty well. Let's see. And then from here, we're looking at the adjustable upper camber bolt and the lower bolt. One tool that I really like for these jobs is this crescent vice grip wrench. Basically, you just go on the side with the nut, or on the bolt head actually. You just kind of tighten it up, and then you're ready. Top one's 19 millimeter. I think the one below is like 21 or 22. Nice thing about this wrench is you can kind of just quickly transfer from one size to the other. Try 21. It's 22. So if you take a crescent wrench and your impact here, you can get it started. And then pull it out like that. This top one, normally what I do, I take a wrench, and this is the adjustable camber bolt, so you can see it moves as I twist this, but basically what I do is just kind of tap and turn until it starts coming out. Looks like I got it. Just like that. The adjustable camber bolt there. Now, when I pull down here, the strut's gonna be able to come loose. So before I do anything else, yeah, I think I will pull down. I'm gonna go get this top secret tool. That only fathers have. We'll see if you guys happen to be one of the fathers that has them. This is a Diono car seat cushion, or spacer. It helps when you're rear facing, it helps get the car seat at the right angle. But what I've found is that once you get the strut off, this this cushion helps protect the axle. So we've got our axle protector in there, and we're going to the top, guys. This is exciting. Get this strut out of here without destroying our axle. There she goes. So look how jankety my strut spacers and stuff were on top of this. It's pretty comical, actually. And yeah, this thing was doing pretty bad. It was actually technically leaking right there. You can see a little bit of fluid coming out the top. All right, but what I need to figure out now is which of these small struts matches up to this one. I think I have my answer here, because if I put this one down beside it, that one's on the opposite side, so it's definitely this one closest to me. This might be a hard cut with the hood on, but since this is underneath the hood, I guess I'm gonna YOLO it here. Oh, that didn't work. Alright, I'm going with plan C. I think I'm just gonna use my snippers. I'm just gonna snip through this triangle. Well, can't go back now. So this next part is a part that you can that requires an extra hand, or at least it's the easiest way. I don't know. I might try with my little baby cushion. We'll see if I can get it to work. All right, baby cushion inserted. Man, that's already looking cool. Well, this is unfortunate. I should have measured before I took my car apart. These lower strut mounts are not lining up right. Well, sometimes when you're the first person to try something, you kind of pay for it. But I believe I've got a pretty good solution for right now. I just relocated the hole, and I'm in contact with Flatout suspension right now. I'm sure they'll correct it in no time flat, but in the meantime, this should do just fine. So I'm going to start installing. I actually got both sides already drilled out and ready, so I'm going to start installing this side again. We'll see what I can record now that it's dark out. But all right, so one really cool thing about this strut is that if I keep twisting this, it's pushing the bolt holes lower and lower. And it might even be a good place to start as far as our measurements go. Alright, bottom bolt is in. Try to keep it symmetrical, so I'm going to put the lobed side on the back, and I have the dog tooth part with it as well. Alright, so we got both of the axle nuts back on, or the lower strut mounts nuts on. We've got to torque the top strut towers. I'm going to look up the torque specs. I think in the past it was like 35 or 38 foot-pounds. But right now I'm going to tighten down this axle nut here. I've got to pay attention to the axle and make sure it gets sucked in the right way. Alright, I just looked up the torque specs for these strut tower, the strut hat bolts. It's 43 foot-pounds, which to me just always feels crazy. But anyways, we're going to give it a try. back when I had my plastic lift spacer on, I was always paranoid of this torque spec right here. So I always felt that like the plastic would compress. But it's looking good. Got access to our little dampener adjustment up on top. At this point, I'm going to work on installing the other side. Once I get that side installed, I will pull you guys back in for some of my adjustments on the suspension. It's dark out, so we'll have to see how good the footage is, but hopefully you guys can put up with this wavering light thing I've got going on. I'm sorry about that. As vehicle repair often goes, the second strut went in much more easily, of course. And now I'm ready to put the wheels back on and see where it sits with my current adjustments and make more adjustments. Alright, I stayed up late and I got those new struts on last night. Did a little test drive. Everything felt pretty good. I've got some new rubbing, some new places. It felt like my my wheels could turn farther, so I've got a bit of rubbing at full lock, but as long as I practice some self-control, it should be okay. But today I'm gonna try to get my measurements back to around the measurements that I took before. Last night when I packed it up, I was sitting at about, I think it was 2 inches over, or you know, basically I was sitting at 12 inches at the skid plate, whereas when I started, I was at 10.5. I'm going to show you what that looks like. It looks really good. I wish I could just keep it, but for this long trip, I don't think I can risk, you know, the axles not being happy. That being said, I did go ahead and purchase a set of extra axles from Napa, so I'm going to pick those up today and have them with me. If I have to install them on the road, it's not ideal because I won't be aligned anymore, so that's not good for traveling long distance, so we'll have to figure out what we're going to do. But if I'm on the trail and I have to, you know, replace one, you know, it won't be quite as bad on the trail because you're off-road, but I will need to get it aligned somehow relatively quickly, so maybe a shop can help me out. Anyways, let's take a look at the car real quick. Just bear with it. So as it sits right now, I'm on an incline, so it's tilted a little bit, but the air springs in the back, of course, are not fully aired up, and the vehicle looks like it's the Pilot finally looks like it's sitting level, which for this trip is good. For my normal day-to-days, I like having a forward rake because I tow. But again, for this trip, I'm trying to get it nice and level and maybe a hair high, so let's go see what the skid plate looks like here. I did some math yesterday to see what my maximum skid plate height could be. If you take this point as the minimum, minimum ground clearance, the Pilot's supposed to have 8. So my tires, because they're oversized, give me about an inch, 1.7 inches of additional ground clearance, supposedly, you know, according to tire comparison. Tires, you know, aren't all created equal, so it's, you know, your mileage may vary. I know when I had these tires on my 6.5-inch wheels, that kind of pulled them in, and I definitely had an extra, for sure, 1/2 inch right there with that, it seemed, which is pretty crazy. Anyways, so if you add the 1.7 to my 8, and then you add 2 inches to that, that's 11.7 inches of clearance right here, which is what that would be a 2 inches off of you know, stock. Then 2.5 gets you up over 12. It's like 12.2 inches. Let's see what we're looking at here. And I also kind of left it last night to see if it would settle. So right now it's sitting at almost exactly 12 inches.
And I have a hard decision to make because I could leave it there and it might be fine. I don't think my axle angle, looks that atrocious, when you're driving on the flats. It's just when you start driving off-road, and you've got droop and turning. But we've had issues with the axles before, with other brands. These are Napa axles here. OEM's probably the best if you're willing to put in the money. And then Napa seems to be the second best. I should probably lower it down to where the skid plate is at least 11 inches for right now, just to be safe. The other thing is, I don't know how much these, springs and stuff are going to settle over this trip. Alright, so we got the wheel up off the ground. I realize I should be able to adjust this strut now. So what I'm going to do is, and I don't know how equal, the height is here. If I go down a 1/4 inch, does it mean I've gone down a 1/2 inch, at the skid plate? It might work that way. I think just to be safe for right now, since I started with 10.5 inches, I'm going to go ahead and go down a 1/2 inch. Visually, I can check at the bottom here. I just want to have a way of double checking that it's set up about the same, but I can feel right here with my finger. Unless this goes all out, or unless this goes down too much, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna just chill with this setting here. I'll go ahead and lock it. Now I'm gonna make the same adjustment on the other side. Alright, I did a quick spin around the block. Let's see where we're sitting now with the skid plate. Alright, sitting at 11 inches, so it looks like it's pretty much... So I probably went down about an inch in total, judging by my finger measurement, but anyways, 11 inches right here at the skid plate. I was at 10.5 before. I think I'm okay with that. I really wish I would have had some forethought to buy some new axles. I could have installed the new axles and had my crappy ones as backups. That would have made a lot of sense. But anyways, as it is, we'll be rolling with these axles that have been dewari and back, and have some wear and tear on them. We'll see how they do, but we will have a spare set, so at least we can get rolling again, even if we have to chew up our tires. But I'm going to go ahead and decide how high I'm going to put the rear with the air springs, and then I'm going to take it to the alignment shop. But this pretty much concludes the flat-out suspension install here. It'll be interesting to see how much the suspension settles over time. The cool thing about this setup is that I can adjust it on the fly, and I wouldn't think that the alignment specs would change too much, just moving it up or down just a little bit. So you can compensate for weight, like if you've got your camp gear in the vehicle, or you're going to have your whole family in the vehicle. You can kind of fine-tune the suspension. So looking forward to that. So far, the suspension feels really good. I've got it, I for the rebound or dampening, I turned it all the way to hard, and I backed off 8 clicks. So that's where I'm running it currently. It'll be interesting to see what happens when I go off-road and I turn it down. And yeah, it'll be fun to experiment with. I'll keep you guys posted. And yep, so if you guys take a look at the description below, you can see my Amazon store. It's got those traction boards and a bunch of the cool stuff that I've got on my rig, a bunch of the tools I use, and a bunch of the projects I've done. I've kind of, created lists for those. If you guys like seeing these crazy adventures, consider supporting us on Patreon. That'll help us to create more content. We've got some, other cool trips in mind. I've always wanted to go to the Outer Banks, and there's just other stuff. But as always, thank you for watching, and I really appreciate your guys' support. You guys have a great day.